Did you know in the year 2025 alone, India has witnessed over 1.16 million cases of cyber theft? From ransomware locking you out of critical systems to phishing scams taking people's hard-earned money on a daily basis, which is why we are making this series on cybersecurity. With me, I have Adim Rahman, who is a cybersecurity enthusiast. Let us take you through the different aspects of cybersecurity. Okay, Adim, so how would you explain cybersecurity to a 9-year-old?
Well, Mr. Ram, we can think of it as owning a house. So let's say we start building a house and we build it without any doors, any windows, or like we keep all that open. So if we keep all that open and then we sleep overnight, we keep all our valuables in our house, right? Obviously. And then you wake up in the morning and there's literally nothing left at home. So when you have nothing left at home and then you wake up, it's just like, oh, what happened? Where's all my money? Where's all my valuables? Obviously, it's going to go because you've left everything open. You've left your windows open. You've left your doors open. Or you haven't had that at all in the beginning. There's a different kind of implications that can happen. So you shouldn't be surprised by it.
Okay, so let's start with some common threats that individuals and businesses face on a daily basis.
Well, before we get to the start of all the attacks, we should keep like the baseline. I'll be precise. 98% of all cybersecurity attacks have social engineering in it. So social engineering is basically the art of deception. How I can explain it in the easiest way is that humans being the weakest link. So when you think of like the psychological factors, right? I give it to you in terms of an example. I start calling, I call you out of nowhere as a random number and I just go like, is this Ram? Or your mother has fallen ill on the street or has passed out or something like that. We need so and so and so and so information. So you're going to start acting on your impulses, on your need to help, right? And you're going to provide those informations like that. So what's going to happen? They get access to that information. That information gives them access to multiple things. So it starts off like that, right? So where it starts off is always at social engineering, trying to deceive someone into giving you the key, the information that they need to start something huge. So this is the basis, right? The first attack that we can talk about is something called phishing. So phishing is exactly what we hear, right? It's basically phishing, but the hook is not like the normal hook. It's like you're trying to fish for their data, for like whoever you're trying to attack. So when let's say I'm targeting somebody, you know what, let me give you an example again. Let's take like a pretty cool, funny example. So recently, around 2 to 3 weeks ago, a man in Uttar Pradesh, who's around 84 years old, he was sent a water bill update, and it was disguised perfectly. It was disguised as the people who sent the water bill, and it was actually an APK folder. So an APK is basically like, it's an app, right? That's going to run in the background of your phone. So this guy, he thought that it was an update on his actual water bill from WhatsApp, which, if you think about it, doesn't really make sense. You don't really get water bills on WhatsApp, right? But the poor guy, he fell for it. He downloaded it. The malware started running on his phone. And after that, what happened? It installed a spyware. So spyware is something that basically monitors whatever is happening in your phone while it's happening. And it basically, he throughout like a few days, he got like all the information that he needed, and he got access to both the accounts that the guy had, and he extorted 54 lakhs out of that. Until now, nobody knows who the guy is, because it's this easy to be like, as long as you use some kind of protocols or something, it's this simple to be anonymous completely. Nobody can know who you are, where you are, how you did this. It's very simple. So phishing is basically trying to provide a link or trying to provide something that the user will just click, and he'll download it. And when he downloads it, starts there.
So phishing can happen not just on a website or on an app. What are the other ways in which phishing can happen?
It can happen through
it can happen over a phone call?
Over a phone call.
Yeah.
It can happen on an SMS, on a message, on an email, on a UI. It can happen anywhere, right? When what people are doing these days is they're using AI to automate the entire procedure. And they're able to do it so fast because they have basically minions doing all this hands to them at like all the time. So they're able to do it not just to one person, but to like solicit it and address it to multiple people at once.
So phishing is basically a hacker trying to pretend that he's something else.
Yeah,
He's trying to represent a company or another individual.
Yeah,
right. And I think the classic Nigerian scams over the emails, where they're pretending to be a prince and they want to transfer their money, right?
Yeah.
And if you fall for it, damn, all your money gone.
Yeah.
So I think this also comes under phishing.
All of it. Lottery. Like, sometimes you open like, I'm not going to hold myself back, but all of us watch movies on pirated sites, right? And when we do, we click on something, the play button, and suddenly there's an app, like there's a web page that pops up. It goes like, oh, you won the lottery, you won this, you won that. Enter your credentials, give me your bank details. And what's going to happen? You think you're going to get that amount? No, they're going to just take that amount from your account.
Yeah. I think what people can also relate to is this happened a couple of years ago where there was a mass phishing attacks asking, like, basically the hackers were pretending to, like, hey, verify your Facebook and get the blue tick or green tick or whatever. So basically they created a fake Facebook page which looked like Facebook, but it is not actually Facebook. You go there and you enter your ID and password, it gets logged into the hacker's database and they can do whatever they want with it. But one thing that we need to stress upon is to prevent phishing. We need to check the origin of the email or the call or the links. So we have to make sure that the domain is legit.
The main idea is that you have to be skeptical. When you look at all these emails, right, it looks like they're trying to rush you. They're trying to go like, oh, this is in 2 days, in 3 days, this is going to happen. In 2 days, you're going to lose this information. But what they're trying to do, this is again a form of social engineering where they're trying to get you to feel like, oh no, if I don't do this, this is going to go at this time. But what they're actually doing is they're just fooling you so that they can get the credentials, right? So the first order of action is that you should always be skeptical of these emails or anything that pops up in your laptop before giving away your personal information. And another thing is the main way that most of phishing attacks happen is through links. So when it happens through links, the number one thing that you can do is hover over the link and check if, like, the domain that you're going into, or if you do click the site by accident or anything, check if if the URL says HTTPS or HTTP, because HTTP means nothing is encrypted. Everything is visible. If someone is trying, if there is a man in the middle trying to see everything, he's able to see it in plain sight. But if it's HTTPS, it's secured. You can't see anything.
Yeah. And I would like to add upon this, a visual representation of HTTP and HTTPS is a padlock which appears on the address bar.
Yeah, it is. On newer websites and everything. It is.
So let's discuss some safe practices in order to avoid getting phished. As you said, number one is check the origin, check the links, check the source. What are the other things that people can do to not get hacked?
Well, to not get hacked is, first thing, be skeptical. Okay. Now the rest of it is like more of an aftermath. So what you do is always enable multi-factor authentication for whatever websites that you have. Like whatever kind of credentials that you have, always enable multi-factor authentication so that if someone does try to log into your account, you will get like an SMS or you will get some kind of validation or some kind of notification that someone is trying to do this. And most new websites and softwares, they'll always provide what location they're doing it from. When you do see that, you'll go like, oh, I don't know anyone here. I'm not doing this, so it has to be someone external, right? So you can just deny the attempt and they'll never be able to gain access. Another thing is maintaining passwords that are like pretty strong in terms of differentiation in characters, using a long, strong passwords. Because if you use let's say, only digits password in 2025, you are basically asking to get hacked. Because how it works is it works on an algorithm that keeps checking. Like there will be an algorithm that tries to fit in the password and it keeps trying for and captures a handshake. So once this it keeps trying like different passwords, there'll be like a word list or there'll be some kind of file that has different passwords. And if you use only digits, let's say I'm trying to crack a password, I would just put in like a file with like 1 to all 5-digit numbers that possibly exist. So it'll be like 0000 till like 99999. That covers all of them, and it'll keep trying to crack this password. So if you use only digits,
Brute force.
yeah, it's brute forcing basically. But if you use like only digits, it makes it much easier. But let's say I add in like a few characters, a few like underscores, a few hashes, a few capital case letters, it becomes infinitely harder because it scales like that. The more different characters that you use, the more exponentially harder it gets to brute force. Like it will take like, right now if you use like different special characters and different numbers and different like lowercase and uppercase letters, it takes like hundreds of thousands of years to crack passwords like that.
Now that we established what phishing attacks are, let's move to the second most prominently used.
Well, the second most prominently used would be ransomware. So when we talk about ransomware is something that is targeted on companies specifically, especially companies that have a lot of data. Let's say the easiest way to do this is I'm trying to target a company, and I send like an email or something to one of the employees saying that this is in order and this is in risk, and I get the credentials from them, and I get access to the data, right? So I can send a malware. Usually how this is done is malware is sent to the company and it encrypts the entire database or whatever that they have, and there will be a key. And when you send this ransomware attack, you'll also have like usually some kind of account that's usually crypto, because crypto is decentralized, no one can track it or anything. So it's usually crypto, and they'll give you a crypto address to send money to, and once that money is sent, the data will be free. Something like that. So they're always trying to get data and tell you that if you don't pay this money up, then I'm going to either leak this data or I'm going to delete it forever. And this has like, there's problems with this, especially if companies don't maintain caches. If companies don't maintain like,
Backups
of their data, then they're in trouble here, right? They don't have any other copies of the data, and if they lose that, they're basically doomed.
So ransomware attacks can not only happen to companies, it can also happen to individuals, right?
Yeah.
Wherein the hacker steals your private information, like your photos, and then he can ask you for money to prevent him from leaking it.
Yeah, it's like digital kidnapping.
So let's discuss safe practices to avoid ransomware attacks.
Yeah. So as I said earlier,
both from company perspective and also on an individual level.
Yeah. So maintaining different backups, that is number one. If you have like your local data in your phone, it should always be connected to a cloud service so that you have your data in your phone as well, and it's also backed up on a cloud. So the moment like, God forbid, there comes a case where you lose all this data, you have a copy of all of it in your backup. And this would be something like for individual. And for companies, I would say that, again, you have to be skeptical. You have to train your employees. There's different kinds of practices in order. So one of them would be giving role-based access control. We call it RBAC. So if there is an employee, let's say he's working as a manager, and there is another employee that's working under him, the amount of access that the manager should have should be completely different from the amount of access that the employee has. Right? So if, let's say, the employee's computer gets compromised, if the employee's computer gets compromised, then he should only have like access to a certain amount of things that would have like the amount of access that he has. That's all the hacker can get access to. But like if a manager gets hacked, then he like loses all the data that's in his realm. And another thing that would be optimal for ransomware, like protection against ransomware, is using like a zero trust architecture. So how zero trust architecture works is that people will never be trusted in the company, within the company. So this is to imitate an insider attack. So if there is someone that wants to mess everything up from the inside of the company, he gets a feeling to do that, then we should start with giving them limited access, right? He only has enough access for his own things. And another thing in zero trust architecture is that you always verify first before getting access to whatever you have, so that they actually know that the person who's trying to access his own items is him. Yeah. So having a zero trust architecture, or having a defense in depth architecture, which is again something which I can explain simply, is that everything is defended in its own container. So using architectures like that would help a lot.
So something that I want to add on to this is to not use pirated softwares.
Yeah.
As good as it sounds, although you will not be paying through money, you would be paying through your data.
Not on office laptops, definitely not, because that's a big compromise there, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, in a personal level as well, if you somehow manage to get phished by these pop-up ads that come up, well, you're the only one liable for your losses, right? Can't blame it on anyone else.
Yes. So we talked about phishing and ransomware. What's the next one on a hacker's list?
Yeah, the next one on the hackers list is something that I find pretty comical. So it's something called DOSing and DDoSing, right? The best way I can explain this is that, let's say you mess around, you are hungry, and you're going to Udupi to get some nice food, right? Someone, let's say me in this case, I've hired like 1,000 people to stand in front of you in line just for one purpose, so that you don't get your food. So this is the best way I can explain DOSing. When the implications here are that you're not trying to lose data, you're not trying to gain access to data, you're not trying to do anything here except for make the entire system unreachable. Like it won't be under service. You can't do anything because of that traffic.
Yeah. And the servers could fail or simply go offline because of the huge amounts of traffic that it receives. How can DDoS affect businesses? So if they're not able to service the customers on a stipulated amount of time, obviously they lose money, right?
Yeah, think of it as if a company makes a certain amount in like an hour of business, right? And suddenly, because they got DDoS, they got DOSed, they're not able to provide that service for 1 hour. So that's all the money that they can provide from online services gone for an hour, right? And there are like different kinds of ways this happens. One is using one system to send all this traffic from like one system to their server. That is DOSing, by the way. And DDoSing is using multiple compromised computers called botnets. We call them botnets, and they send traffic like from multiple different areas and like completely jam the system, jam the server. Especially like if a bit of reconnaissance has happened and the hackers know how much the server can take, and they send like a higher amount than that. Then everything is compromised over there. The server breaks, everything is unreachable. They have to make a call to the person who's holding the server. What's happening? Nobody knows. It was a massive loss of money.
Can the IPs which are sending these attacks, can they not be traced? Or I'm pretty sure they'll be using a VPN to mask that, right?
They will be using different kinds of like VPNs. They can use different kinds of softwares that basically kind of hide their IP addresses, using spoofing or multiple other techniques which we can use to just hide from where you're coming, or just cover it up, or maybe just transfer which IP I might be using. A lot of different ways to go about that.
So what do companies or individuals have to do to prevent DDoSing? So is it the firewalls?
It's using firewalls. Right now, I'd be using firewalls. So firewalls are basically, let's take a highway into perspective. There's a person who's watching the highway, and every day he always sees different cars, different bikes, and everything is fine, right? So this guy is in charge, is just looking at the road. And then suddenly one day, this guy just sees like multiple tanks on the road, like 50, 60 tanks, right? He's obviously going to like, what the hell, what is this? Shut everything now. So this is what a firewall essentially does. What it does is it identifies, it's just like a logging system that looks like what are the type of traffic being, why is there like 100,000 red cars when there's usually different colored cars or something like that. So it's basically a system that tracks what kind of packets are being sent in a server. Other than firewalls, there's different kinds of softwares that you can use. There's something called intrusion detection systems, intrusion prevention systems, and different kinds of softwares that you can use to monitor the traffic that's being sent across the servers.
So a firewall basically checks for any unusual activity in a particular server, and it flags the owners as in when they notice an unusual activity.
Yeah, or it could just shut that particular type of packets down. They won't even pass by. Cloudflare is like a perfect example of a provider that does that. And recently, they have come across their biggest DDoS attack yet, which was around 7.2 terabits of data per second for like 7 minutes straight. It was the largest one recorded in history, and they prevented it because they have
Cloudflare?
Yeah, Cloudflare.
Okay. So what is the next thing off the list?
So the next thing in the list is what's been going on to automate all of this in a very sophisticated and a very fast-paced manner. When we use AI to help us do all of this. We call it vibe hacking. So it's when you use AI to send all these calls or send all these messages and basically automate the entire procedure. So, they always have these scam centers in Mumbai. There'd be like 15 people doing it, right? And AI can replicate that, but by like 20-fold, right? And just do all the work by themselves without sleeping, without getting paid, without anything. So when you use AI to do all these phishing attacks, these DDoS attacks, and social engineering shenanigans, all of them happen a lot faster, a lot easier.
Yeah.
So it helps the hacker. Like instead of having like multiple workers, he just has AI to come and do all this for him. And the funny fact is, almost 85% of all attacks in 2025 had AI in it, like had the help of AI in it, because it's that easy.
Something that I've been noticing recently is these hackers are using softwares like 11 Labs. So if you just input a sample of your voice, it can keep generating your voice. So a hacker could be impersonating your mother's voice or your relative's voice or your friend's voice, and they could be asking you money, and you think that it's your friend, but it's actually the hacker.
There's a term for that. It's called deep fakes. Yeah. So deep fakes are basically when you provide like an LLM enough data about like someone's voice or someone's like how he looks and how he's moving around here and there. In fact, it's pretty prominent. You don't even have to know about hacking to know this. Like you can see all the videos and the reels that come out on Instagram. You'll see people doing funny things when they're not supposed to, like the president of America or something dancing around. Like it's not real. It's all deep fakes, right? But when you start using it for like different purposes, like trying to gain access to someone's account or it's like some kind of shenanigans like that, that is the use of AI and all.
Something that is most dangerous is deepfakes, primarily because you could literally create a video of a very prominent person telling something very absurd. It could incite religious violences.
Yeah.
So AI is something that needs to be monitored, and it's definitely being used more and more for cybersecurity attacks these days.
It's like we can incite a lot of riots and like a lot of problems can occur just from one deep fake being assumed as real. The best thing that you can do to prevent being attacked by all of this or being used by all of this is that you should be skeptical of whatever you see in the internet, especially after the advent of AI. You cannot trust anything from the internet. You cannot trust any single thing that comes out of anyone's mouth, because it's at the point right now where it's so real that even a person who helps in creating LLMs and making video editing, all that, they won't be able to identify if it's a real or if it's a fake. That's how bad it is.
Thank you, Adim. So we've covered the basic aspects of cyber attacks. So the next episode is specifically going to be about how to safeguard your website, your mobile applications, and so on. So any last words before we wrap this up?
Yeah, always be skeptical of whatever you see in the internet and stay safe. Stay safe from all of these admins. Go through everything that I've said, hover over links. Whenever you hear something that has an urgency to it, always think in the back of your head that it might be an attack, it might be something.
That's the message. Yeah. Stay safe. Thank you very much for tuning into this episode. On the next episode, we will be discussing more about cybersecurity for businesses, for websites and applications. Thank you so much.